Everyone, good morning and welcome back to another edition of the show. We're at episode 408. Today's February 28th, 2024. Quick shout out. Happy 80th birthday, Mom. I love you. You are the best. But let's get on with it. Excited for today's show. We have an Iowa Hawkeye, Lady Hawk on the show. She's 109 pounds, was a regional champion this last weekend. The women are, a week? Just over a week away from their national championships. And today we're talking with Ava Bayless. Ava, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on today. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, you bet. Glad to have you. And I guess first thing some people might know this, some people might not, but we're doing a season-long film series with the Hawkeyes, the Lady Hawks, and Ava's been a staple at 109 pounds. So I've kind of gotten to know her a little bit, but going to dive in a little bit deeper today. So, Ava, I know you're from Pennsylvania. You got a couple brothers. I don't remember if they're younger. I think they're older, but I don't remember for sure. But just tell me, like your introduction to wrestling, what you remember from the start, and then how you kind of got yourself involved in the sport.
So my story started when I was really young. When I started practicing and going to tournaments and stuff. So yeah, like you said, I have three older brothers. So kind of just got introduced to it. And my father was kind of like a coach at the local elementary school. Um, and the smallest of the three brothers, he never had a partner. He was really small, so I was kind of always his partner. And then eventually we saw one girl wrestling at a wrestling camp, and that's when my parents were like, okay, she can do this. So I was kind of seeing that another girl out there, and kind of just went with it from there. And I grew up in Western Pennsylvania, so it's just super big wrestling culture there. So grew up in the program at Reynolds, and then decided to go to Wyoming Seminary, and started journey as a freestyle wrestler, and was able to do high school there for 4 years, and then now it's been insane to see the growth. So
Yeah. Back to being your brother's partner before you guys saw another girl. I'm like, okay, yeah, we'll let Ava go do this. Did you have a desire? Like, were you like, man, I'd like to do this, or was it just like, hey, I'm just my brother's partner and whatever?
yeah, it's funny because I was so young that it's almost hard to remember exactly what I thought, but I knew that I wanted to be a part of anything that my brothers did. And
Oh
because
yeah.
as a younger kid, it doesn't make sense that just because I'm a girl that I couldn't join them as well. So I remember my parents always talk about how I would always be on the sides and paying attention really closely to everything that they were doing. So yeah, I don't think I would have taken it well if I was denied that opportunity.
And and you said you don't have, it's hard to remember that far back, but do you remember once you saw this other girl and you like, okay, yeah, Ava's gonna go wrestle now. Like, do you remember? Was it excitement? Was it finally I'm gonna go get to be able to do what my brothers do? Do you remember how that kind of felt at all?
Yeah, well, there's one funny story. I remember in kindergarten, it was the start of the year. So this was the first time I could really go to wrestling practice every day, because at Reynolds they had it from K through sixth grade, um, every day after school. So I remember they made an announcement to come down to the small gym or whatever for wrestling information you can get to sign up or whatnot. And the teacher, I of course got up. All my brothers were wrestlers at the time. I got up to go to the meeting, and my teacher stopped me and was like, "No, wrestling's for boys, only boy." And I remember that being a super emotional thing, because I was like, "What? I'm not gonna be able to wrestle." And I came home crying on the bus to my parents, they're not gonna allow me to wrestle and stuff. So yeah, it's pretty funny to think back on.
How did that fix itself?
Um, well, luckily, I mean, I think that this is a pretty big point that my dad was like helping out coaching. So of course, like I had him to be able to like, vouch for me and to like reassure everyone that like it's good for girls to be wrestling and whatnot. But I think like thinking back now, there were probably so many other girls that would have loved to join, but like didn't have the parents to support that decision or stuff like that, or have older brothers to be in the room when like maybe a younger girl is getting picked on for being on the team or stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's what my next question was going to be. Maybe not did you get picked on, but now that you brought it up, like, did you get picked on? But my question was going to be like, were there challenges of being the only, or one of only two or three, or however many girls, in a male dominated sport early on?
Yeah, for sure. Especially where I lived, there were girls here and there. Not many who were able to like stick it out for a long time, because we didn't get the opportunity to compete against other girls very often. So it's just the social aspect of people like always looking at you. Every year they would like ask my parents, "Is she really like wrestling again? Like she's gonna still do that?" And that kind of continued on up until like junior high, and then I was able to go to high school and wrestle on a full girls team.
Okay, awesome. Was there a moment, I know you just wanted to do what your older brothers did, right? And I got older brothers, I get it. That's how I got into it. Uh, but was there a moment when you got hooked and you were like, okay, I'm doing it now because I love it, and for whatever reason, a moment, a practice, a match, a friend you made, I don't know, something about wrestling, you were like, this is my thing. I'm going in.
Um, I can't remember an exact moment, but I remember like back when I was little, just continuing to push, because in Pennsylvania they had Pennsylvania Junior Wrestling (PJWs). It's kind of a big thing, and I always
For sure.
like had that goal of going and trying to place and whatnot, and like those goals always kept me going like year after year. And then eventually I started getting older and seeing other girls like on the national stage, and then like seeing women in the Olympics wrestling was definitely like a huge factor. And then what really set me up to want to get to the next level was, like I said earlier, SEM, adding a girls team. And I knew what SEM was because my brothers competed against them at Ironman and Powerade and stuff like that. So I knew they were one of the top schools in the entire country for boys wrestling. So as soon as they added girls, I knew that's where I wanted to be. And like to be able to get there, I wanted to get to the next step.
You said, I think you mentioned watching the Olympics, right? What, for me, it was like 92 and 96, where like John Smith was like the first, when I'm watching the Olympics, and I think back to when I first started watching the Olympics, it was that. For you, I'm guessing '04 when it first started, you were probably too young. I don't know about 08. What year was it? 8, 4, 8, 12, 16? Like, tell me about the first time you watched women wrestle in the Olympics, who you watched, who caught your eye, what you remember, and how that inspired you.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I was like kind of old for 2012, but I remember that more being like about the men's team at the Olympics. I don't know if I really like recall looking into like the girls, but then eventually like throughout the next 4 years or so, Adeline really like stood out to me and became somebody that I knew, and I saw her competing and stuff. And then really in 2016 is when like it kind of became like a reality that this isn't so far away. And I think like a lot of us know, Helen was able to win and like just kind of exploded the sport, I think, in the U.S. So.
Yeah, what an awesome moment. Like, Yoshida, the GOAT, and she was behind, had to come back. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that one up because I'm sure that really caught your eye. As far as Wyoming Sem, like making the decision to leave home at 15, 14, 15 is a big deal, right? Like, 18, that's like normal. You go into college or whatever, but like not having those formidable years and those adolescent years at home, you said like I knew about SEM. I knew I wanted to go. Like, was it like just no questions asked, or was there not no questions asked, but right, that's what I want to do, or was there conversations with the parents about is this what we want? Leaving home's a big deal, especially that young.
Yeah, for sure. It was hard for my parents for sure. I had to more so convince them. Um, and for some reason, it was really just something I did like think about every day, and I never really had um, a second guess for that decision. I think I knew that wrestling folk style against boys in high school was going to be super difficult. I was excited for that challenge as well, but being able to compete in freestyle on a girls' team was going to be kind of that next step. And then I would have gone to high school at Reynolds, and at the time, I would have been like a 106 pounder, and my brothers were there. My brother had won like a state title there, and then we had Gary Steen, who was a year older than me. So I knew that like getting into the lineup was even going to be hard, and so I think that kind of helped my decision. And then uh, I watched them. I watched them my eighth grade year because they started it the year before, and they were like traveling the world and doing all these fun things together. So that was pretty special.
With this film project we're doing, a lot of the girls on your team I've talked to, they've mentioned like, hey, this is the first time I've been on a team or an all girls team, and kind of talk through that process. But for you, it started at Wyoming Sem, right? Describe the differences of being on an all girl team from your perspective, going to Sem and competing against all girls instead of mixing up with the boys.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely different. I grew up with like none of my friends that were girls, like they didn't understand it. They weren't wrestlers. So being able to be like best friends, we competed against each other, we practiced with each other. That was pretty cool. I think, it's hard to create an environment you're like 100% comfortable in when you're the only girl. So I think just being able to really thrive in that environment and you really understand one another. It's different than being on a boys team. I think I had so much fun in like seventh and eighth grade with the boys, and having brothers on the team as well. Get to look up to them and like them help me and stuff. But I think just being with a group of girls is just different, and being able to compete against girls, you're kind of uh, it's a little more like fair for you, I guess. And I think a lot of people enjoy wrestling against boys as well, because it is a challenge. You get to go out there and like it's always so much fun to be able to compete against another boy, and then if you win, it's it's pretty exciting too.
And you said prior to Sam, most of your female friends didn't wrestle. Maybe they didn't understand it. Um, did they like? Was it that they didn't understand, or did they like? It was hard to connect with them because they didn't understand it and form deep friendships.
Um, I don't know if I'd say I didn't have deep friendships with them, because I was there was a lot of different things that I enjoyed, yeah, as I was younger, and it wasn't just that I was a wrestler. So, but just going to tournaments or you know, uh, just wrestling is a different sport, and I think not having that connection sometimes was difficult, and knowing that I was going to spend the next, couple hours in practice, and I was always just felt, a little more lonely compared to if I was on the girls basketball team, something like that.
Yeah. So heading into SEM, right? Did you have like a bigger vision? Like I guess maybe 2016 set you off to be like, hey, I want to pursue that Olympic dream. But more so like college. Was college on your mind? And obviously Iowa didn't have a team, and there was, I'm sure, just less teams. But what did you think about college wrestling when you're stepping into SEM or during your time at SEM?
Yeah, for sure. One of the other reasons I went to SEM was the academic portion of it. I also knew that they were sending kids to Ivy League schools. They were sending kids to Big Ten schools, and that hopefully I would be able to go there and get exposure into another aspect of my life, and that was like going to be able to go and wrestle in college. And growing up, I did know of like King and Campbellsville University and the University of Cumberland's, like they all had these women's wrestling teams. And then when I went to STEM, I knew I wanted to be going there was being a part of something special and bigger. I knew that I wanted to go into college and do the same thing. I didn't know exactly where I was going to be headed. Um, I was going to go to a school that didn't answer a women's wrestling team, or girls all over the country now at Ivy League schools, at Lehigh and such, like starting these women's wrestling clubs. And then I know that like going into SEM, I even knew that like I wanted to be a part of something like that. And then it's kind of crazy now being.
Yeah. Do you remember? Maybe you don't. Do you remember where you were when you heard the University of Iowa is going to start a women's wrestling team?
I've been asked this a couple times. I don't remember like exactly where I was, but I remember after like school that day, we were some of the best girls in the country. So of course, like this was a pretty exciting time at SEM. And I remember we were in like one of the rooms that like we kind of hung out in the afternoons, and it was just like crazy to think about it, and it was just like such a surreal time. And I didn't at the time I was like, there's no way like I'm gonna be able to get on this team, but like I was just so ecstatic for the sport of women's wrestling. It was just a huge deal.
Well, so you thought there's no way I'll be able to get on this team. Maybe you're downplaying your skill or you don't think you're good enough, but like, was it something you wanted right away?
Yeah, for sure. I think I, of course, wanted to go be a part of like this huge thing, and I think a lot of girls across the country they want that opportunity as well. So continuing to push for other schools is pretty big deal.
So then tell me about the first contact, first call from Coach Clarissa or Tanya or Gary or a letter in the mail or however text. I don't know how they do it right, but like, do you remember the first time somebody from Iowa reached out to you and how that made you feel and who was it and what was that conversation like?
Yeah, I was able to talk to Coach Chun, and um, it was just kind of crazy to think about. I was like so happy to be able to hear from her. I had always been a fan of Coach Chun, and I'd seen her in at like camps and whatnot. So knowing that, like being able to talk to her, just gave me that opportunity to be on this team. Was something like that I'll always remember.
What was the vision that she laid out? And I assume that included like a year to just sit, right? Like, I got to take a year and just train, and you're not gonna be able to compete. But what was the vision she laid out for you?
Yeah, that we were gonna be on this team, and she explained how Iowa was a super special place for women's wrestling, and we were gonna kind of build our team and like create our own culture and whatnot. And I really adhered to that, and that we were also going to be able to have opportunities outside of just wrestling. And um, at the time, I was coming off of a shoulder surgery, and she had understood that and uh, was totally okay with me taking the time I needed to get back to 100%. And I think that really helped as well because I had kind of been off the mat for a while, and then I knew that she understood injuries and everything like that. And then I came in here in the fall and was able to slowly progress on the mat, and then had that extra year to just build with our team and create a really great foundation.
You mentioned that coach mentioned the culture. We can build a culture, right? There is no culture when on day one, right? That's got to be built. Um, Describe the culture of the team you're on.
The culture is just empowerment. I think that really describes our team. We're driven um, by everybody that's paved a way to get us to where we're at. That's outside of the sport of wrestling. That's for our parents, for all the donors, like everybody that's really like made this atmosphere at Iowa. Super, super special for female athletes. So we're empowered by that, and we want to continue striving for that. And then, in order to do that, you have to be a team, you have to be a family, you have to be there to support one another. And I think that we just do that so well, and we go out and like compete super, super hard, but we have a switch that we turn on and off, and we get to have fun. We get to explore different areas of our life, and doing that as a unit, as a team, is just super impactful.
Yeah, it's really cool. I've been doing this for like 15 years. Been around tons of programs, most all the big ones, and from college to high school and up through the Olympics. And I've never really been. I've been around women's wrestling and women's teams. I've never been like embedded, kind of like we are this year. And it is really cool to see. It's just not better. It's not worse. It's just different. You guys, you train hard and all that, but like at the end of every practice, you get in a circle and talk, and everybody shakes each other's hands and gives high fives, and it's just different. Is that similar? What I'm describing to the way it was at SEM?
Yeah, it is. We were definitely a different team, I think, than like if you have a team of all boys and stuff. So um, I think it's been truly special here at Iowa, having like so much support from the university and from our fan base, and I think that really helps as well. It's a little different when you're in high school and kind of going through some rigorous academic stuff as well. And like we always like we all live together and stuff, so it is a little bit different. And now like being on a team of like college women and stuff, you know, we see a huge purpose for our team, and like really striving to get excellence in most areas of our life.
Sure. At the end of the day, it's wrestling though. Wrestling is wrestling, and it's hard, and it's these guys ever get chippy? So anybody ever like throw a slap, throw a punch, fight break out, or not even a fight, but like it's wrestling, it's personal. You're gonna piss me off sometimes, and I'm gonna piss you off sometimes, and like, we can forget about it later. But in the heat of the battle, the things pick up, emotions fly.
Yeah, for sure. We're just as emotional. We're just as aggressive sometimes as boys. I think that's definitely an aspect of our sport. And we're all teammates, so we control that to the best of our abilities. But sometimes it gets a little, not that no fights, we don't do that, but yeah, it definitely, you definitely have that high emotion and whatnot, especially with your girls that are some of the top two in the weight class. So yeah.
Absolutely. Um, so we're kind of winding down towards the end of the year. You just won your regions last week. Iowa's and it looks like it's going to be Iowa North Central, a really tight team race. How exciting is that to think that, hey, we're coming to nationals and we're trying to win, but these other girls, everybody's trying to win, but it seems like there's two teams that have kind of stood out in front. How exciting is that to think, hey, we're heading into next week into a dogfight?
Yeah, I'm so excited. Anytime that there's like really top competition and it's tight is like super exciting. It's entertaining for fans. I know that North Central is gonna show out. We were there last year. We got to see they have a big team, they have a big support system, and then we're going to be here in Iowa. So I think that part's going to be super exciting. And just going into like now that eventually we're going to get sanctioned as an NCAA sport, this year is kind of just huge and like, laying that foundation for what it's going to be like in the future. And I think this like kind of rivalry that is going on is just incredible, and it's amazing for our sport, and it's going to be super exciting to see. And being a part of it's pretty cool too.
Yeah, national duels was fire. It was like a shot clock point decided the duel at the end of it, right? Like it was like one single point late in the, it was super fun between you guys in North Central. And I know you got to get going, but just like, you talk about the opportunities of wrestling in college and being at Iowa, and like it's a new world we're living in. Transfer portals, NIL. Have you had any opportunities with NIL or opportunities that have arisen?
Yeah, I was able to partner with a brand called Firefly. They have small devices, and I'm able to put them on my legs and help recover about 400 times faster from the blood flow. It simulates blood flow, so they're super nice. They're like a small portable device, so I can just use them whenever I need to walk into class, doing homework, in between, like on travel days and stuff like that as well. They're super helpful. So they're an awesome brand.
Can I try this thing out next week when I come back to Iowa?
Yeah.
All right, shout out. Awesome. Well, I know you got practice going on, so I know we kind of got a hard cut out here at 9:30. It's 9:29. I want to give you the final word, though. Really, say anything on your mind, or shout out, or tell us a joke, or anything you want to say, Ava.
Oh, just that I'm super excited. I hope everybody watches next week for nationals. It's going to be an exciting time. And just continue showing up to women's wrestling events, because it's exploding, and it's awesome to be able to say that you were at these first kind of events that are happening, and then going into this Olympic year, just keep watching, keep following.
Sounds great. Awesome times. Ava, thanks so much for joining us. Oh, last thing I wanted to ask. Western Pennsylvania, you're from Western Pennsylvania, wrestling. Do you have a wrestling room in your basement? Everybody I talk to from Western Pennsylvania feel like has a wrestling room in their basement.
Not anymore. We did live in a house that we had a big wrestling mat, and
Of course.
we pulled that out.
I think it's mandatory out in Western PA. All right. Well, Ava, thanks so much for joining us. I will see you here like next week. So good luck with everything, and have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Yep,
See
thanks.
ya.
See ya. All right, folks, that's going to do it. Ava Bayless, she's ranked number 3, I believe, at 109 pounds in women's college wrestling. She's going to be trying to win a national title next week. The national championships will be out in Cedar Rapids. So that'll do it for today's show. Thanks so much for tuning in. And one more time, happy birthday, Mom. Love you. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks. Bye-bye.